Hi, I'm Kelly at Book and Paper Arts, and welcome to part 3, the final video in the project, How to Make a Homemade Art Journal Using Old Book Papers. Video part 1 was showing how to make handmade clear gesso that you use to coat the papers. Part 2 was how to cut, assemble, and bind your papers into the book itself. Today we're going to look at techniques and media that work well with these papers. Because yes, you are meant to use this as an art journal. But clearly some media and techniques are going to work better than others. Today we're going to look at what those are. If you like journal arts, altered books, vintage books, old papers, and other ephemera, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on the notifications, and you will have more of them in your life. Today's video is not actually about me making a page from beginning to end, as I sometimes do when I show art journal process pages. Instead, I'm just going to show a few techniques that work well with this fun paper, and then you're going to be jump-started and off and running to make your own pages, which is more important. The first material I'm going to work with is a soft chalk pastel. I really love chalk pastels. They are easy to find, surprisingly versatile, and affordable, which makes them a good way to add color to your page. Now, I'm just going to make a super messy, rough drawing. This is not going to be very sophisticated. I'm just going to, and it's going to be a rose. And to do this, I'm just making C shapes, like the letter C, that are getting increasingly wide as I go around the center. And I'm going to take another different contrasting color here. I'm not being exact. I don't have to mirror every single petal. And then add a little bit of greenery here. And I'm going to now smudge. You could leave it like this if you want a sharper resolution, but I'm just going to give it a little smudge. Okay, there we go. And I'm using a makeup sponge. So this is, again, just to give you an idea of how you can use this pastel in different ways. It's going to give you a lot of contrast, and it's fun and messy. I am often asked when I work with pastels, do I fix them when I'm finished? If I have smudged enough and the piece is just for me, no, I don't fix it because it's pretty much going to stay where it is. If I'm selling a piece, I don't want to take that chance, and then yes, I do fix it with a spray fixative. I actually have a full-length video where I show techniques, a lot of techniques for working with soft chalk pastels. And I'm going to link to that in the text below this video in case you'd like to know more about our friends, the pastels. One of my other favorite ways to go big with the color on a page like this is with ink. This is ink, fountain pen ink, and water in a mini Mr. Spritzer. This one's by Ranger, and you can get it at the craft supply store. Or you can just get one in the chemist, your drugstore, or big box store in the travel supplies. And they're cheaper. It doesn't have to be ink. You could use watercolor or some other pigment. You just want to water it down so that it's light enough to go through the nozzle. And then I am usually all about the messy, but when I'm spraying ink, I am going to put down some protection. Let's go. Just peel that back. And now you have some instant coverage. And when that dries, then you can use it as a background. Or you could actually draw into it if you want to. Here's one that I finished and that's dry. And I think this would make a really cool beginning to a collage layout. Something like this. I don't know. Clearly, you're going to need something to give you a lot of contrast and a lot of color to stand out from this text, this print. A good way to do that is with a water soluble. Water solubles are pieces that go on dry, such as this crayon by Caran d'Ache. And then when activated with water or other liquid, they become a paint or an ink. Another one is the Derwent Inktense Stick. This is another Derwent stick. This is the Chunky XL Graphite. So it's going on like a chalk. And then when it's activated, it becomes much more inky. So a lot of you probably have watercolor pencils. They do this as well. And there's also a gray version. This is a graphite, water-soluble graphite pencil. And again, it goes on like a pencil, but then when you activate it, it becomes a charcoal color. Very, very dramatic, and it is really going to let your pages be vibrant and pop. If you've seen more than a couple of my videos, you have probably seen me draw cornflowers. That is because I only know how to draw 3 kinds of flowers. But somehow I toddle by with that. Just going to activate these. And you can even pull the color out a little bit there. I don't do a lot of rubber stamping in my own work. I do like how it looks in other people's pages, and I've got stamps. They are a good way to add contrast and pop to these messy print pages. So I started this layout already with a scrap that I had, and now I'm gonna get this going and see how it looks. Yeah, that is pretty cool. And what I might do later is go back in and add some color to the petals, or I might just leave this as a black and white flower page. Actually, I added a lot more and I like it even better. So just double down on the messy stamping for a dramatic page. This is going to combine a couple of techniques. I laid down some color with a water-soluble crayon, activated it and let it dry. And now I'm going to give it a border using this rubber stamp. I think this is Tim Holtz, not 100% sure. But I'm going to go around the edge and make a border. Now I have a fun page with a lot of drama. I can either leave it the way it is now, or I could add some text or mark making to the middle. Maybe a little drawing. One of my favorite ways to start a background in an art journal page made from text is with a transparency. That is any paper that is so thin that when you glue it down over the page, it will let the text show through. For instance, I have this tissue paper, and if I was to glue that down, you'd be able to see everything underneath. Paper napkins are transparencies. That would be adorable. Here's another tissue paper with birds. Today I'm going to show using one that I've done myself. I have printed this transparency myself on a piece of vintage tracing paper. It basically has the thickness of a tissue paper. If you take this, and if you don't have this, you can, again, use plain tissue paper. And then you just want to take a little piece of masking tape and tape it to a piece of copy paper, just plain old cartridge copy paper. Then you can peel it off, and hey, presto, you have this really, really fun, cool thing to make your background with. This is from a printable set that I have on Etsy of vintage butterflies. There's some in color and some in black and white. So I'm going to take this and just rough tear it like this. Now that this is actually glued down on the page, you can see how this technique really lends itself to the messiness and potential distraction of the text. It becomes integral to the page. It gives depth, texture, and interest. And you could leave it like this. I'm happy with that. But you could also use it as a starting point for a collage layout. How about a messy mini collage made from scraps? I'm pretty sure most of you have a scrap box. Mine is pretty darn big. And these really are just things that I have in the scrap art journal box. I don't quite know what I'm going to do yet, so we're just going to mess around and see how stuff looks. I'm starting with a tea bag as my background. And yes, thank you for asking. There will be a tea bag tutorial on next week. So I'm going to start with that. See what I can add here. Remember her? She's from last week's art journal video. You get the idea. I plowed through that collage video very quickly, but if you'd like to see more, I have quite a few videos that show collage basics in art journals on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to link to that playlist in the text below the video, so you can find those if you'd like to know more about how to make fun, messy collage. How about a little flip through? This is the mini journal with a tea bag cover. And I did the layout with a water-soluble background and the stamping, and then I added my own text. This is a background made with a stencil, a blending tool, and a stamp pad. And that would make a good starting background for a layout. This is the beginning of another mini collage. That's a painting done with watercolor. And there's a nice messy ink spritzy background for something. This I actually sort of made into a themed book. Everything in it is going to be red. My red shoes. It's strawberry season here in Britain. And I think these little mini books would make really fun themed books because you could do only shoes. You could do only the books that you're reading. You could do the foods that you like and just make little mini journals. These little books also make really good presents because they cost almost nothing and you've made it by hand, so it's very precious. Did that watercolor painting. And there's, again, where I've used the spritzy ink spots, and I've started an art journal page here. When I'm practicing watercolor flowers, I put them in a blank book, and then I sometimes like to cut them out and make them into greeting cards or add them to journal pages. Underneath this video, there is a box with text in it, and there you can read more about what's going on at Book and Paper Arts, including a link to my printable vintage butterfly scans on Etsy and information about my illustrated journal course that is on sale. I hope that you're going to be making your own handmade fun art journal. And now you've got some ideas, some techniques for making pages. I bet you have a lot of your own as well. You can share those in the comments below, and if you have any questions, let me know there as well. Let's compare notes. Until next time, get up and go make something.